One thing I see a lot of people throwing around during versus battles debates is that the Rinnegan is supposedly immune to any type of Ocular Genjutsu, and they just dismiss any Ocular Genjutsu that will be cast against pain, for example. Do you think the Rinnegan is immune to Ocular Genjutsu? Let's find out, but before that, subscribe to this channel and like this video to help me out, thank you. One thing we know for certain, that the Rinnegan is not immune to any type of genjutsu because we clearly see Jiraiya's frogs casting a genjutsu on pain, but that was an auditory genjutsu, not a visual genjutsu. The notion that the Rinnegan is supposedly immune to ocular genjutsu is because the Rinnegan is supposed to be the most powerful eye out there, the ultimate evolution of the Sharingan, and we know that the Sharingan can resist ocular genjutsu by design. So naturally, the Rinnegan is immune to any type of genjutsu, correct? Well, that's not really the case. The first thing we have to note here is that pain is more relevant in this discussion here because we know Madara, for example, and Sasuke are much more capable with ocular genjutsu, but Nagato doesn't really have any showings that he knows how to counter or utilize ocular genjutsu, and that's why it always comes up. For example, in an Itachi versus Nagato or pain video, some people will say Itachi's genjutsu will just not work. Some people will say it will work just fine. But what would actually happen? Is the Rinnegan completely immune to any type of ocular genjutsu just because it is a superior form of ocular jutsu? No, it is not. Of course, the Rinnegan will give the user better resistance to genjutsu, especially ocular genjutsu, as well as MP many other physical capabilities and the chakra reserves and all that. But the Rinnegan doesn't make you immune to ocular genjutsu, especially if you received the Rinnegan from someone else, just like Nagato did. And why do I say that? Well, it's very simple. In the battle between Sasuke and Itachi, when Itachi cast Tsukiyomi on Sasuke, who didn't have a Mangekyou Sharingan at the time, Sasuke was able to break out of it. He did that by using his Sharingan. And some people may argue that Itachi let him break out of Tsukiyomi, but I never got that impression. I think Sasuke actually broke out of it. Itachi looked pretty surprised once the Tsukiyomi was broken. The databook statements also corroborate that fact, that Sasuke actually legitimately broke out of it. You may be thinking, what does this have to do with anything, with a Rinnegan? That has nothing to do with it, but it has everything to do with it. After Sasuke breaks out of Tsukiyomi, Zetsu, who was watching the battle, remarks that the Sharingan and the Mangekyou Sharingan are ninja tools. And a ninja tool's effectiveness is decided by the ability of the user. Zetsu remarks that a master using a rock can defeat an average Joe using a kunai, and that's essentially an analogy that he makes between Sasuke's base Sharingan being a rock and Itachi's Mangekyou being the kunai, a more powerful tool, but Sasuke was able to beat it because he was very capable. And the same analogy will apply to the Rinnegan itself. The Rinnegan is a shinobi tool, but the strength of said tool depends on the user. It is an extremely powerful shinobi tool that will give him much more strength than just a base Sharingan or a Mangekyou Sharingan, but it is a tool nonetheless, and it still depends upon the user to be used effectively. Nagato never had the experience of evolving his Sharingan into the Mangekyou Sharingan and into the EMS, so he doesn't have the same experience of dealing with genjutsu and casting genjutsu as well. He won't have the same abilities as Madara did using the same eyes, and that's obvious. Nagato also isn't an Uchiha, and his abilities with the Rinnegan will be much more limited than Madara's. That also includes the ability to resist ocular genjutsu. Am I saying he's not going to resist anything? Of course not. The Rinnegan will definitely provide him a good layer of protection against ocular genjutsu, but I think someone like Itachi will definitely be able to break through it. After all, his genjutsu abilities are far beyond most people in the entire verse. If we go back to the analogy of the stone and the kunai, Itachi would be wielding the stone here, and Nagato would be wielding the kunai. But Itachi's proficiency with said stone will be much higher than Nagato's proficiency with the kunai. It is never stated anywhere that the Rinnegan gives you an aura of immunity against ocular genjutsus. Assuming that is just headcanon, and that's not really something valid for discussions between characters and all that. And also, the pain bodies don't even have a real Rinnegan, so I really think those would not be protected against Ocular Genjutsus whatsoever. And if you think about it, it's very strange that when Jiraiya captured the 3 pain bodies on his Genjutsu, that Nagato simply didn't break them out, just pumping chakra into them, because he's definitely transferring his chakra into them to control them. So why couldn't he just break them out of a Genjutsu? That's how you do it. You just transfer your chakra into the target of the Genjutsu, and the Genjutsu is broken. I guess Nagato wanted to catch Jiraiya off guard. That may be an explanation. Also, the plot needed to happen. Granted, I think things could have been much better in that fight regarding that Genjutsu and the way Jiraiya defeated the initial 3 paths of pain, but that's just another discussion entirely. I just think that if Nagato wasn't able to do that, if he wasn't able to break his bodies out of the Genjutsu, I don't think the Rinnegan is providing him immunity to Ocular Genjutsu either. Now, Pain never fought anyone who had a history of using Ocular Genjutsu, because to be honest, these types of ninjas are pretty rare. They're mostly Uchiha, and they're just a few of them. Nagato did fight Itachi for like 2 seconds. He just used a Chibaku Tensei. Itachi destroyed it with Naruto and B, and then he stabbed him with a Totsuka blade. So they didn't really fight for very long, and Itachi didn't even have a chance to do much, and the fight was over. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, what if Itachi versus Nagato in the manga was a little bit longer, and they just had a lengthier altercation there? If Itachi were to use Genjutsu in that fight, I think it would have worked, because of all the reasons I mentioned before. The Rinnegan doesn't really give you any immunity to Ocular Genjutsu, though I think someone like Madara, when he has his Rinnegan, he is nigh immune to Ocular Genjutsu, just because he is so much stronger than most people in the verse, and also because he would have this amazing proficiency with the Rinnegan and the ability to just break out of Genjutsu because of his natural talent and how much he evolved his powers. Obito would also have a very decent resistance when he had the Rinnegan as well, a much better resistance than Nagato, I'll have to wager, because he is an Uchiha, and he would have that natural talent of the Uchiha to resist Genjutsu. Having the Rinnegan on top of that would most likely help him out a great deal as well. Obito with a Rinnegan and Madara with a Rinnegan, they are probably very hard to cast a Genjutsu on, but hypothetically, if someone stronger than them appeared and has a stronger Genjutsu and is the best Genjutsu user in the world, I think this hypothetical character would be able to put them under a Genjutsu, because they wouldn't be immune to it. It's not like Boruto characters when they're just immune to things for no reason at all. Oh, you can't touch me. Watch this video right here for more insights into the Naruto world. Subscribe, like this video, and thanks for watching.